everyone, welcome to our channel where we help your real estate investments work harder for you. I'm Samantha from Elevate Realty in Toronto. When you hear about real estate in the news, it's usually about property prices. But if you're a landlord, you're probably just as interested in knowing how COVID-19 has impacted the rental market. On our team, we manage over 200 investment rental units, so we've been feeling a lot of the rental market action lately. In this video, I'll go over how COVID-19 has impacted the Toronto rental market and how these changes impact you as the landlord. So if you're ready, let's get started. There's a lot of condos in Toronto and there's more to come. But even with so many projects in the works, our city is still not creating enough rental supply to meet rental demand. That is before COVID hit. So what was happening before the pandemic hit was that a portion of these condos had been occupied by Airbnbs. So to help address the shortage of supply, the City of Toronto approved a new regulation in 2017 that only allows Airbnbs to operate in principal residences. But that only got implemented this spring, right when COVID hit. Now, this is a good idea to help balance rental supply and demand. But with COVID taking down rentals in the short term, we now have Airbnbs being converted back into long-term rentals, and we're seeing an unusual situation with more condo rental supply than demand. If you're not a condo landlord, the good news is that you're not as affected by this increase in supply because the tenant pool is different. People who rent houses don't usually move into condos. Having said that, COVID did damage the rental demand across the board. So here are 4 key changes to the rental demand that affects both houses and condos. Number 1, immigration. We attract a lot of immigrants to Toronto, and when they first move here, they're most likely to start renting first. So a big part of the rental demand growth is from new immigrants. With COVID, immigration to Toronto slowed down by 60%, and that growth number isn't anywhere close to the expected number of 100,000 new immigrants each year, and that's the number 1 reason for our short-term drop in demand. Number 2, international students. Another big contributor to the tenant pool come from international students studying in Toronto universities. We have over 350,000 international students coming into Canada each year, and a big portion goes to Toronto. With universities switching to online classes in September, many international students don't need to physically be in Toronto. So again, we see rental demand go down here as well. Next, we have office staff renters. The good news is that most of these renters have maintained stable income during COVID-19 and switched to a work from home arrangement. But because they're staying at home more, their preferences have changed. So instead of wanting to live closer to the core in smaller and denser downtown condos with pools and gyms that can't be used anymore, a survey by UREA's latest pulse check tells us that renters are wanting more space, a backyard, and less density. Now, this changes a couple of things. First of all, there is a higher turnover of tenants happening, and rental demand for houses further from the core is getting higher. And finally, we have our service and hospitality renters. Unfortunately, their jobs are most impacted, and affordability is a big concern. In fact, Rentals.ca did a survey of 1,600 tenants across Canada in April and May, and 40 to 50% were looking to move, with the big reason being affordability. So we have been seeing tenants decide to move home with family, and we're also seeing them move in with friends and sharing bigger units. This is causing a higher turnover of tenants. With all these changes, here's a few things you might see as a landlord in Toronto until the COVID situation improves. I mentioned earlier that affordability is a big concern for renters, so you might be concerned about not getting rent from tenants. The truth is, most tenants are very respectful and responsible. Instead of seeing tenants hold back on rent, we've been actually seeing a much higher turnover where tenants are taking the opportunity to move since there are cheaper options out there. So for you as a landlord, this means you need to expect extra work to do in terms of finding new tenants. With more supply than demand now, renters have more choices. This also means that it's taking a longer time to rent out units. So instead of being able to rent out units in just a couple of weeks, it might take double the amount of time now. So once you've received your 60 days notice from your current tenant, we recommend that you start looking for new tenants as soon as possible if you want to avoid vacancies. If you just purchased a property, you can start looking for tenants before your closing date. And if you're renovating, start advertising as soon as it's photo ready, even before you you finish up some minor fixes. And last of all, your rent will get a haircut. According to rentals.ca, the average one-bedroom condo in Toronto is down 9.3% year-on-year in July. And on our end, which are primarily houses, we're seeing a drop of around 10% year-on-year for smaller units and a slightly lower 5 to 8% drop for larger units. So if you're thinking about buying a property, but lower rents is holding you back, here's one thing you need to remember. When people purchased a house last year, their mortgage rates may have been 1% higher than what you're getting now. So even if their rents were higher, your net cash flows are actually more or less the same. So to clarify this, let's go through a quick example. In 2019, assume your monthly rent was $5,000. At 3.25% interest on a $1 million home, you would have paid $3,500 in mortgage payments each month. This means you're left with $700 in cash flows at the end of each month after operating expenses and your mortgage payment. If you buy this year, rents would be 10% less at $4,500, but with a lower 2.25% interest rate, you're paying $3,100 on your mortgage instead. So this takes your net cash flows to $600, which isn't actually too far off from buying last year. To sum things up, COVID does take a hit on you as a landlord, and you'll probably have more work to do and you might get slightly lower rental income. But in the long run, Toronto's diverse economy remains unchanged. People still want to move to Toronto for work and school. And even with reduced rent now, income properties in Toronto still bring you stable appreciation and decent cash flows, yielding you double-digit returns. If you want to learn more about real estate investments in Toronto, we'd be happy to connect. I'll put a link in the description below so you'll know how to contact us. Finally, if you like this video, please give us a thumbs up and don't forget to subscribe to our channel to see more weekly Toronto real estate investing videos just like this one. I wish you all the best in your real estate investing journey. Thanks so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.